Once there were 4 children, whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy.
Suppose I'm writing a novel. I write, Mary laid down her book. Next moment came a knock at the door. For Mary, who's got to live in the imaginary time of the story, there's no interval between putting down the book and hearing the knock. But I, her creator, between writing the first part of that sentence and the second, may have gone out for an hour's walk and spent the whole hour thinking about Mary.
We make things by the law in which we are made. We create because we are created.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, one ring to bring them all, in the darkness bind them.
Tolkien and Lewis, both in their way, lifted me out of this world to show me a thundering beauty. And when I read the last sentence and came tumbling back to earth, I could still hear the peal. I hear it to this day. God allowed those stories to lift the veil on the imaginary world to show me the real world behind it, which ended up being, in the end, the one I was already in. The real world, at least in part, isn't out there somewhere, nor is it in my mind. It's here, right under my feet, all around me. Tolkien and Lewis held the fabric of Narnia or Middle-earth in one hand and clutched our world in the other, building a bridge across which we could set out for perilous realms and yet return safely with some of the beauty we found there.
My first and last philosophy, that which I believe in with unbroken certainty, I learnt in the nursery. I generally learnt it from a nurse, that is, from the solemn and star-appointed priestess at once of democracy and tradition. The things I believed most then, the things I believe most now, are the things called fairy tales.
We live in a moment that's unlike any other moment, a moment of bizarre tyranny, a moment of overreach.
I was nearly torn apart by a crazy doctor.
A moment of fear. It's like, and how are we living? How are we standing up in this moment?
I was made asleep by a bunch of mangy pirates.
Are we full of joy? Like, are we characters who are full of joy and unafraid?
And eaten. Got that? Eaten by a fire-breathing dragon. And not to mention being tossed, squashed, and scared practically to death.
It's like, how do we image God in this particular narrative in which we've been placed, in this chapter? And we get trained for that by reading about Sam and Frodo and Aragorn and Gandalf, and reading, Charlotte's Web and Animal Farm, and reading about Prince Caspian. Like, when you're little, you read those things and you read stories when you're older, and it reinforces what is the courageous action of a character in this moment.
Yet you stand before me.
Well, yeah.
Think, boy. What kind of an adventure would you have had if I brought you here with a turn of the page?
I wept bitterly, and then I said to myself, when everything happens quite miserably, then He sends help. I have always read so. People must first of all suffer a great deal before they can bring anything to accomplishment.
God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in time past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken to us by His Son, whom He has appointed heir of all things, through whom also He made the worlds.
For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of Him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. Not only that, but we also who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, eagerly waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body.
Minstrel boy to the war is gone, in the ranks of death you'll find him. His father's sword he had girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. God of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betray thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved ne'er spoke again, for he tore its chords asunder, and said, no chain shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. The chains upon the people came, and they gave away their freedom. No prophets left, they then grew lame, they accepted their false kingdom. But one young man saw the minstrel boy, and he took up the shredded strings, and with great love remade with joy the sacred tool for truth to sing.
The heavens declare God's glory, the firmament his work. Day unto day it utters speech, at night reveals his word. There is no language nor is speech where their voice is not heard. Their line has gone through all the earth, and words to all the world. What's up, everybody? It's your general. I'm hatless. It's up there. You guys can see it over there. Yeah, I had a little bit of a headache, but we're rolling with it anyway. That was a bit of Psalm 19 in my own hand translation to meter, common meter, simple stuff. But we're going to be talking today about in the second segment, the spiritual realm, Brendan's favorite soapbox. By the way, welcome, Brendan, officially to the new format for Poets at War. We're hoping to have you and Alex as often as possible. But, you know, you guys can trade off however it goes. And you're definitely going to need some times off because you have a baby in your hands. Not literally, but on your hands now, I should say.
Yes. Our son was born on the 1st of May at 11:07 p.m. And we had slated to record the last one right in the middle of one of our many false labors. And it was, it was a fun time. But now I do have a baby. I will still endeavor to be on as often as possible, but sometimes duty will call, and sometimes duty will call.
Yes.
Figure out which one's which.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Gazette. Like, how dare you?
How dare you?
Correct.
Oh, boy. Well, yeah, so Alex, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Grandparents just got home from a trip to Ohio, and so I'm just doing fine and dandy.
That's fantastic, man. It's great to have you back. Isn't it amazing? Did you see the last episode with him, Brendan? Did you see him show off his insane book collection back there with the whole Harvard thing, whatever?
Yeah, no, I saw that. I watched that, and I thought, I do videos for a living. I wish I had the capacity to. It takes a lot for me for a book to get me to like sit and read it for a long period of time, because I either follow the dopamine high and I'm just plowing through the thing like start to finish in a day, or if I try to space it out, what ends up happening is it just sort of like I'll do it for a few days and then it's like it peters out and I don't keep going. But I have a couple of things that books that I'm interested in that I'm trying to get through, but it's
What's been on your list lately?
Well, I'm going to bring them up in this next segment, but Michael Heiser? Yeah, Michael Heiser. And I'm going to probably get a lot of people really mad at me for saying this, but Supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading it, and then things happened, and I got sidetracked. I don't necessarily agree with 100% of what he says.
Yeah.
But he handles some things really well. And then there's another book called The Anatomy of the Soul by Kurt Thompson, MD. So it looks like he's trying to take a sort of more scientific approach. Because just looking at the table of contents, the first chapter is Neuroscience, a window into the mind. So it looks like he's trying to get at the spiritual through more physical. And this is trying to get at the spiritual through Bible. What does the Bible say? Michael Heiser is one of the, I think he's, a Bible scholar for Logos College or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
He's got some reputation. I'm a juggler, by the way. Fully. But yeah, no, that's, those are two, of the books. And then for fun, I have, Aeronaut's Windlass by Jim Butcher. It's a sort of a steampunk sky pirate adventure story. So
that sounds fun. Yeah. Steampunk's great. Steampunk is super fun. Oh man, yeah. So Fairy Tale Dreams has been taking up not a ton of time for me. It's only 4 hours 3 days a week, but just taking up the brain space, getting used to it because it's a fairly consistent thing. Yeah, it's been really cool just being around more kids playing, my kids sometimes going over and playing with them and stuff like that, and kind of taking charge of a shop like that, being the person, who opens and closes and all that other stuff. It's been nice. I've been really nailing the productivity on one end of things, and then on the other end I'm kind of like, where can I do better? Still trying to figure it out. My creation of AI images has started to shoot through the roof again. I'm getting faster again. It seems like every time I have to go back to the conceptual stage for whatever I'm creating, like you're going from zero, chapter 1, trying to figure out the style for the thing and whatever else. That tends to slow me down a good bit, which of course it does. You're kind of just, it's not exactly creating from scratch, but it's you're starting kind of back over. You don't have a lot of assets that you can pull on for the scene, right? And so basically, I've sped up to where I can probably do 2 images a day instead of 1, which every time you can go from 1 to 2, it's double. Yay. But yeah, so I did 2 today, and that was good. And I'm going to keep trying to do more and speed up on that, because if I can get those out quicker, like, that is the thing. Stonecutter did so well, like so incredibly well across the shorts and the full version and everything. I showed it to my pastor just the other day because he apparently missed it somehow as far as social media. Good man, staying off social media. I don't know. But he saw it and texted me back like later. I just gave him the link because we were talking in person, showed him where to see it, and he texted me back like 2 hours later or something like that, and was like, "This is really, really good." And he said, God's gonna do something with all that. Like, don't stop, So that was really helpful for me. But yeah. So, Alex, we talked a little bit about Brendan there. Now me, what's going on with you? You talked a little bit. You said Ohio trip, grandparents stuff, but what's been on your mind, man?
Not much. I'm rereading a book series that I absolutely love right now, and then I've got a couple of books that I've borrowed from the library that I'll be reading soon.
And you'll be getting to Albion soon, if I remember correctly, right?
I will be getting to Albion. Yes, as soon as I finish probably this next book in the series that I'm on, and then the 2 books from the library, I'll get to Albion. I'll read from the rest of the series.
I'm excited to hound you. How are you liking it? How's it going? Good? Because it's going to be really slow, and then when it hits, you're going to be like, yes. Oh, wow. Anyway, but I was going to say, I actually, I just got my library card renewed recently, and I got, I wanted something comfort foody because I hadn't, I just need something like that audio wise to listen to. I got the Zorro novel by Isabel Allende, which I had listened to a while ago, and I'm just starting to listen to it again. It's a really, really good origin of Zorro. It was originally written in Spanish and translated to English, and it's they gave a little bit of a kind of an intro with the Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas Mask of Zorro film, and kind of gave a little bit of that, but it was more like the end of Don Diego and this new Don Alejandro kind of situation. But yeah, I mean, I adore her version of his origin. There's a lot of connection between not just he is half Spanish and half Native American in her version. And in Southern California, there's all this tension between the Spanish missions and the Native American tribes and stuff like that. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening in that book series. It is much more adult than a lot of people might be able to handle. Keep that in mind for anyone who's listening. It's not super adult, but there are a few scenes that are like, okay, we're getting a little risque, but you expect that kind of from a novel written by a Spanish woman about Zorro. But it's an enjoyable thing. So, but yeah. Well, let's add a little bit of, let's just rock here to our first commercial break, and then we will throw about 5-10 minutes further on our main topic and go from there. So commercial break, boom.
I'm rocking to the first commercial break. Sorry.
Stay tuned for the show. Poets at War is sponsored by the following. Attention all Christian writers and creative peoples. Are you searching for a place to share your work and receive encouragement from fellow wordsmiths? Look no further than the Broodcast. Inspired by the legendary Inklings of old, a group of writers who banded together during the Second Great War. The Broodcast is your monthly gathering for inspiration, fellowship, and critique. Join us as we share our stories and support our fellow soldiers on our creative missions. Enlist in the Broodcast community today at joshuadavidling.com/brood. Travel cyberspace. Serve the greatest cause. Join the ranks of the Brood today. And now back to the trenches. This is Poets at War.
You guys ready for some fun? I'm gonna be letting Brendan go crazy here. It's gonna get in. All right. No. By all means,
writing me up, and I'm not sure I'll be able to deliver on that. But
you wanted this topic.
I know. Yeah. So I should probably start off by saying the way I got here was a realization a while ago. I don't remember how long. I mean, it's only been a few years probably, but the basic sentence boils down to, we have been sciencing God out of the Bible. And so my whole thing was like, oh, we're finding archaeological evidence for Sodom. We're finding archaeological evidence. There's a sandbar across the Red Sea. If the wind blows at just the right angle, this sandbar can appear and people can cross on land. Oh, there's a blah, 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 right? Thing after thing after thing. And the upshot is that, like, to one end, the idea was to create a apologetic for the Bible that doesn't use the Bible, because atheists won't listen to the Bible, so you might as well have a hard, solid, have some sort of physical science, right, to show to them, present to them, like, look, here's evidence that you can't dispute, that you can't, like it was originally a good idea to a certain degree. But the problem is when you fight in the ring using their game, they're going to beat you every time. It's like never get into an argument with an idiot. He'll drag you down to his level and beat you with experience, right? But in this case, what's happened is I think that sort of thought process slowly began creeping into everywhere else within the Bible, and we create a situation where people will pay lip service to what Jesus has done. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is blah, blah, blah. He's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Oh, yeah, there were demonic spirits. But then we turn around and go, well, actually, they may not have been demonic spirits. It might have just been a form of mental illness. It wasn't legion. It was multiple personalities. It's schizophrenia or whatever you want.
Well, you have the pigs.
Whatever. You have all of this situation, and we end up sciencing all the supernatural out of the Bible. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Now, combine that with the fact that for a while, one of the things that my family does is we used to do martial arts. We studied Kung Fu. But yeah, I know. Insert Matrix meme here. I know Kung Fu. But one of the things that also was taught at the class was Reiki. Now, I am not endorsing Reiki by any stretch of the imagination.
Give us a little bit of a understanding of what that is.
Oh, okay. So Reiki is so if Kung Fu is a focus, is an external martial art, i.e. it is training your body for battle. Qigong, Reiki, Tai Chi, those are all internal martial arts, i.e. in the Chinese philosophy or Chinese and Japanese philosophy, it's focusing on your Qi or Qi, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And it's meant, a lot of people talk about it as holistic health, but basically...
Also, I prefer Chai, but...
There's an A in that, I think, for Chai Tea, yeah. But, there's it's meant to do the holistic spiritual health, and it has to do with their worldview, and that's a huge discussion that I don't really want to get into right now for the purposes of...
That's okay. You gave us a little bit of... Yeah, you gave us some ground for that. Go ahead.
One of the things that Reiki focuses on is the, shall we say, projection of Ki. And my dad, for a while, did that, and he realized, wait a minute, when they started having them chant stuff, he's like, yep, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because that's a problem. Now, there's that he doesn't do this, don't go hating on my dad.
Right. No.
But here's another thing. One, I had a very active imagination as a kid, and I used to pretend, like, when Dad's like, oh, I can do this too, and I would imagine myself doing it, right? Was I really doing it? Probably not. Except when a Qigong master who developed his own system that was Qigong and Reiki, sort of a hybrid thing without chanting, came along, and he was sort of showing some stuff. I could do it better than anyone else. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but my meridians on my palms opened up. The meridians, don't worry about it. And he was like freaking out because people would train for 7 years and not be able to do that. And I did it in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a little weird. Now, here's where things get wonky. The whole spirit thing, this is, I go from this to, we don't acknowledge spirits exist, even in the church, right? Yeah. We preach on demons, but then don't acknowledge their presence in our regular day-to-day life.
Yep.
And my sister's husband is from Africa. And I heard him telling a story about how water has memory. And the locals will tell travelers, don't cross the river, don't go into the water, don't fish in there, because the water doesn't know who you are, and it will kill you.
That's a common thing, even to the point that it's in Frozen 2 now. Like,
yeah, yeah. But here, and I was sitting here going, wow, that sounds an awful lot like Norse. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Scandinavia. I have this book on Vesson. Mm-hmm. Spirits, Siora, Lake Wife.
Goldberry.
Yeah. On the other hand, anyone who annoys her may well meet a horrific death and end his days as fish food in the lake. That's in Scandinavia, not in Africa. Now, the Vikings got around, let's be honest. But hold up. What about Asia? What the heck is a kappa? It's not a
Kappas. Yes, I learned about them on Arthur.
yeah. Kappas are water spirits that can be malevolent and can drown people. They like cucumbers also, apparently, but whatever. So you have all kinds of, like, there are water spirits across cultures, and people can say, anthropologists will say, oh, that's because water's mysterious, and people will come up with folklore and blah, blah, blah. Really? Come on. And especially when, like, Christians are saying, oh, spirits don't have power, spirits don't exist, whatever. I'm just like, all right. I don't know. I wrote notes, by the way.
I love that you did.
Gone off of
This show needs notes. Look, come on.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing that says that I sort of came to the conclusion on. In Hebrew, the proper greeting is shalom. Shalom means peace. Okay, that's fine. Jesus was an Israelite. He was of the tribe of Benjamin. He was a son of David. He was in the lineage of Israel. He would have spoken Hebrew. What did he say when the storm was raging on the lake? Peace. Be still. Now, a lot of people translate that as peace because it's like it is what the word is. Could he have been saying, hey, peace, calm down? Could it have been repetition? Yes. Or was he giving the proper greeting? Hello, water spirits. Be still. I'm not saying that's what happened. All right? I'm not a Hebrew, I'm not Aramaic scholar. I don't know this. But if God spoke the world into existence, why wouldn't the language that the Israelites ended up developing, his people, have some connection to that? And if that's the case, why wouldn't peace as a greeting, even if it's in Aramaic, harken back to that? And are we really so convinced? Are we really so haughty that we think that we've invented spirits and invented things that God didn't think of? Really? Do we think we're that creative that we can think of something cooler than what God did?
Yeah. I hear you there.
I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna pause here and let y'all talk.
Yeah, no,
I've got more, but it's kind of a slight tangent off of that. So I just want to hear, like, especially Alex, Mr. Oklahoman Metaphysics over there. By the way, I see that in the background. I'm so happy about that.
Hey, not happy about
that. Why don't you show that meme you got canvas framed real quick? Because it is over a frame, but it's canvas. Yeah, just show that off real quick.
Yeah.
This was a meme Brendan made, and Alex got it. Yeah, hold it up.
Yep. It's great.
Yeah.
I love it. It's the highest compliment I've ever received. It's great.
Oklahoman is his handle on the brood, so yeah. Anyway. But go ahead. But say it in audio so people listening in audio.
Oh, it's the car swerving around meme, and the straight is current discussion. To the right, it says metaphysics, and the car swerving off toward metaphysics is Oklahoman.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I've seen the problems that the disenchanted worldview that your dad and Tom Price and C.R. Wiley have talked about on the podcast has caused. I was in a friendly debate with a friend of mine who started going to my church a while ago, who's a charismatic, very, very strong charismatic, calls himself Word of Faith. He defines it differently than other people would.
Sure.
But he calls himself Word of Faith. And the thing that I kept coming back to in our conversation is I disagree with charismatic theology almost entirely. Not completely. Not as much as like John MacArthur would. But I really have strong disagreements with it. But it struck me that I was really thankful that I started hearing the charismatic arguments after I came to hear stuff about spirits actually being real, stuff about, the Greek gods totally existed. They were demons.
Right.
There was a reason the stories existed, because if I didn't have a properly spiritual worldview, I would have no hope of combating people who have a improper spiritual worldview in talking with them, because they have a worldview that actually has a place for things in the Bible where modern evangelicals generally don't. And I can't, I don't know why we gave that up. That's the thing that I get.
Well, one of the things I was going to bring up, there's a lot of guys, the Enlightenment got away from the medieval metaphysic. We all know this kind of stuff if we've listened to any amount of podcast or Jason Farley or your dad, just talking or whatever, Brendan. But yeah, the main one that I point to, even more so than like Rousseau led to this guy. I think this guy was kind of the one that really just destroyed it all. And I'm going to put a picture of him on the screen because he's a very cheerful looking fellow. Seriously, look him up on Wikipedia if you guys get the chance. Rudolf Bultmann. Y'all familiar with him?
No. My history is lacking.
Okay. He was a German Lutheran theologian during Lewis's time. And he was the one who started using the phrase demythologization. And he specifically said we needed to demythologize the Bible and try to get to the scientific roots of everything that was going on, and everything what was happening, because it's very clear it's fairy tales and whatever else. And it's not even that it was necessarily lies to him. I think we could see this guy in heaven. I don't know for sure, quite frankly. But he's a guy who very, very much was completely against taking the Bible as it was, and taking God at his word, just straight up. And it's just such a crazy thing. It says here on Wikipedia, Bultmann is known for his belief that the historical analysis of the New Testament is both futile and unnecessary, given that the earliest Christian literature showed little interest in specific locations. Bultmann argued that all that matters is that the, quote, thatness, not the whatness of Jesus, i.e. only that Jesus existed, preached, and died by crucifixion matters, not what happened throughout his life.
He's like a late 20th century Andy Stanley.
Basically, yeah. But he's very grumpy looking and German. Anyway, but Lewis and Tolkien both wrote a lot of academic papers against stuff that he was teaching and sharing. And this was a lot of his stuff was actually like what's the term? Motivation for Lewis and Tolkien to write things like Tolkien's On Fairy Stories and things of this nature, where they were specifically combating in nonfiction, because that was considered academic suicide during their time in many ways, even though their fiction kind of pulled them out of it. But they were considered ostracized by a lot of these big thinkers and theologians because they believed in fairy tales, and it's like, I hear what Brendan's saying. I know a little bit about the cheese stuff and whatever else, not a lot, but a little bit. And it's just one of those things where I sit here and I think back to Bultmann, and I'm like, what did Bultmann actually give us? Like, what's the fruit of Bultmann's ministry? And then I look, what's the fruit of, and this is just going 20th century, basically late 19th, early 20th century. What is the value of his opponents' ministries? And it's like night and day.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got that element, but sort of going back to what, and kind of springboarding off of what you said, but also going back to what Alexander said earlier, there's a temple being built to Odin in Iceland. Now.
Yep. Odin.
and not only that, I'm willing to believe it's Odin. But
I'm saying I don't believe that there's, and let me just make this clear. When I say that, I don't believe a neo-pagan Norse worshiper has any clue What in any connection, it could be the same demon that's accepting whatever nonsense they're coming up with right now.
Sure.
But the fact is, what they're doing has absolutely no connection to what the actual pagan Vikings were doing in the, Middle Ages.
Well, we'll see about that. I don't know. I haven't looked too deeply into it, but
I have.
Here's the other thing, though. I had friends in college who would talk about spirit guides, and they were people my age and younger, I think, are much more ready and willing to accept that there's more out there than just science, because they've looked at what's going on and they've gone, yeah, no, we're missing something. And the church is frankly horribly, horribly unprepared to minister to those people. Let me just sort of jump a little quick here. 1 Kings 22, 19-23. Unfortunately, this is NIV, but I didn't think to look it up. Therefore, hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing beside him, on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, who will entice Ahab, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said one thing, and another said another. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, I will entice him. And the Lord said to him, by what means? And he said, I will go out, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouths of all his prophets. And he said, you are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouths of all these your prophets. The Lord has declared disaster for you. A lot of times people focus on the fact that the Lord has declared disaster. And I think we do need to push back against the hippy-happy, oh, God is love, just accept Jesus into your heart, because that's never in the New Testament. But hold up. There are spirits that obey God that aren't described as angels. There are 200,000 different types of beetles, or something ridiculous number like that. Why do we think there are only angels and demons? Hello?
Real.
Let's jump over to Jesus's words. Why couldn't we drive the spirit out of this man? This kind can only be driven out by prayer. They are driving out other kinds. Oh, look, we have more variety of spirits. Why is the idea of a water spirit so ridiculous? Let's jump again to later on, before his death. I tell you the truth, if these are silent, the rocks themselves would cry out. What happened when he died? The rocks were split. They mourned. When Jesus was walking along, he saw a fig tree, and he wanted food. It wasn't fig season, technically, I think, according to some people I've heard. And then the fig tree didn't have figs, and he said, may you never bear fruit again. And then they walk by it another time, and it's withered. It's almost as if he expects nature, the natural world, to break its own rules for him. Like, that doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying that that's exactly what's happening, but how could a unthinking, unfeeling nothing do something unless there is something that is supposed to power it, right? I am posing that this could be dryads, ashwives, there are at least 2, I think, plant spirits. There's 3 water spirits. By the way, one of them is called a brook horse, which, gee, what does that sound like? Poseidon. This is Scandinavia. Now, Scandinavia and Greece are much closer together than Scandinavia and Africa, but whatever. This bugs me a lot, because I think not only is this weakening Christianity as a whole, just in general, in terms of our worldview, where we don't believe in spiritual forces, and so therefore we don't necessarily believe that God has the power to do things and help us and answer our prayers necessarily. Like, we might give lip service to that, but we don't act and live that out. But also, it's like our world is so shallow and disenchanted, as Alex brought up. And if we're sitting here, like, we can't pretend to understand the whole of Scripture if we don't even take, like, Jude 1:6 into account. and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. So they have a proper place. You know? If we springboard off of that, right? The Bible flip-flops between idols being nothing and people worshiping demons, right? It flip-flops this. Why? Well, if we think of an idol as just the object, it like they have ears but do not hear, eyes that do not see, noses but do not smell, feet but do not walk. Those who make them shall become like them. They're nothing, right? They're just a vessel. But if it's just like, I guess, and this is me springboard. I'm spitballing. Sorry, I'm going so fast here.
No, you're good.
But
good.
But I think one of the reasons why it's so important that, like, do not worship graven images and that sort of whole vessel thing is that there's nothing there. You're worshiping nothing. You're devoting your energy to nothing. But you can still worship a demon. Right? That's still something that can be worshipped. By the way, sons of men and sons of God and the daughters of men make the Nephilim, who were the great heroes. Oh, look, Hercules. Cool. That's an aside there. But I think
Maui.
Yeah, that too, Maui. I think it's also why, though, Jesus' incarnation is so important. Because God gave himself a vessel, Jesus' body, if you will. Now, I'm not saying Jesus' body isn't him. I'm not
right. You're not doing Christological weirdness. I know.
I'm not trying to be a dualist, but it's also why the ark was so important in the first place, because we made a vessel for God, and then God sent himself into it. You know, like, this is why it's so important. The idols that we make, they're nothing, because they can't be anything, because the angels, they can leave their proper dwelling, but they cannot inhabit that.
Right.
Because that's not where they're supposed to be. I don't know. And here's the thing, like, I don't know is the problem. I say it's the problem. I don't know. But if we accept this spiritual, the fact that there's more to the world than just the physical, then we might actually have an explanation, an actual proper explanation for Reiki, for Qigong.
Oh, yeah.
Qi energies, for ley lines, for all of this stuff. If we accept that there is a spiritual world, it has rules, and it's just as complicated as our world.
And Jesus gave us all the instructions we need to navigate our world and not wrongly run into the other world.
Exactly.
You know,
we are going to rule over angels one day. It's not now, but the Bible says we are to rule over angels. So
I think there's
wait your turn.
A progression of that. Being post-millennial, I do believe there's a progression of that. But it's a thing where Jason Farley talked about this on Knox Unplugged a little bit. The idea of angels in certain ways in the Old Testament taught us to worship and how to worship, whereas now we're in a position where we're beginning to lead angels in worship. The New Testament actually says that, specifically in the worship service of the church. But the thing that I was going to get to, and this is the thing that blows my mind. We're just starting to untangle all this stuff. Because it got so tangled with the Enlightenment and people like Boltzmann and everything else. Millennials are more open to it, and I think a big reason for that is people like Walt Disney. I think that Walt Disney, very, very, totally not of his own volition, whether it was, him or some other force or whatever, he was not planning on doing this. But we had 2 world wars in which everyone just got completely blasted with materialistic atheism as a way to cope, quite frankly. And then we have this generation, even with the hippies, we get the boomers and the hippies and stuff, and they had a little sense of this. And then we get, a little further on, we go Gen X into, Gen X are like, leave us alone, weird hippies. And we're seeing a similar thing with Gen Z now and the millennials. But the fact is, millennials were raised on the enchantment of Disney more so than any of the other generations because we had the Renaissance. I don't think you can at all undersell the spiritual significance in our culture that the Disney Renaissance had on the entire world. We always talk about how, people like us, we like to talk about how art changes culture, but we don't go back and actually look at how did art change culture. Very few people do that. Very few people talk about that. We always want to focus on the political aspects. We always want to focus on what military leader and what Cuban country, whatever happened, right? But what was the art emphasis that led up to Castro? That would be an interesting study. You know what I mean? But getting back to on topic a little bit, and we've got just a little bit of time left. I want to make sure Alex gets in anything he has. But let me just say this. Because of that untangling, I'm having a big problem with the concept of, we get this pushback on personality in the evangelical circles, in personality tests and quizzes and things like that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of those, though not all of them, have some connection to Zodiac. A lot of people go Zodiac immediately to occult, and the occult definitely used the Zodiac, but the Zodiac as a concept, not the actual Zodiac in all of its individual facets, was much more of a calendar sort of related thing, having to do with the planets and astronomy and astrology, early medieval astrology, not what we think of as astrology today. And I'm still trying to untangle that in my mind in big ways. And I've wrote your dad. He didn't write me back, but I think he's probably staying off Facebook for a while. And then I wrote Jason Farley, and he gave me a couple tiny leads, but he's completely unsure too. Aquarius's governing planet, according to modern Zodiac, is Uranus. Uranus was not discovered in the Middle Ages. And so it was Saturn. Where and why did it change to Uranus? Who changed it? Was it Benjamin Franklin? Because he was into that kind of, people contemporaries of that. Like, when did this happen? I have no answers, and I've been researching for like weeks now. I cannot find why they changed it to Uranus. Like, that seems like kind of a huge deal. You know what I mean? Like, we're literally talking planets and calendars and all those other kinds of things. And if that's true, what changes were made in the Middle Ages from earlier calendars? Like, what are we doing here? What concept of measurement and mathematics are we using? It's like we changed to the metric system overnight and just completely forgot about the imperial system. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous and crazy. And I want to know what kind of impact that had across the board on spiritual matters, and that's a whole other thing. But Alex, I want you to have last word on this segment before we go to commercial break.
Oh, wow.
If you want it.
I'll do my best. Yeah, as I've said before, I'm very new to all of this. Half of the stuff that I'm hearing, I'm first time trying to reckon with it, and it's not computing very well because I was very much like the person that you talked about earlier, sciencing God out of the Bible. I knew about the Red Sea sandbar. All of that stuff. I'm really familiar with it, and it just doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with the world that we actually live in. It doesn't work with the stories that we've been told throughout our history, throughout every other culture's history. They seem to have a much better connection, and we've completely lost that because, to quote Lewis, chronological snobbery. For some reason, we have it in our heads that we are the biggest and the best, and everybody else before us was an idiot. I can't understand why, especially we in the church, who ostensibly have a connection to the people in the past. Like, we hear about the saints, not as much in the Protestant tradition as you hear in like Catholic and Orthodox traditions, but people still know who Joan of Arc is. People still know of a lot of the heroes of the faith. And ostensibly, we're supposed to be connected to them. And for some reason, we think that whenever they talk about spirits or, them finding the body of a satyr and shipping it to one of the popes, we think that they're lying or making up stuff, as opposed to they might be lying. It's possible, but it's also possible that they simply knew things about the world that we've completely forgotten.
Right. And
how do we convince people of that? That's the thing that I'm trying to figure out. I'm a debater. I like debating. If you can't tell, I like talking. And how do we convince people that these things are important and not sideshows and not extraneous to the point? And after that, what do we do with it? After we've convinced people that, yeah, there are probably more spirits than angels and demons, and yeah, they probably still exist, and yeah, you can probably run into them if you go to the wild places of the world.
Or the cities.
Yeah. I feel like the cities are probably, right now, at least, mostly inhabited by one of the spirits that people acknowledge.
I raised you New Orleans as well. New Orleans, like, you can go into a city and it has its own flavor, its own feeling, and that's not just aesthetics. That's not just architecture. That's not just cuisine. That's just people culture. Yep.
Yeah. So it's the feel of the place.
Can I add 2 more questions to that?
Why not? We'll go for it. This is going well. We went short on the first segment, so this is fine.
Yeah. How do we convince people that we're in the longest game of telephone ever, lasting thousands and thousands of years?
It's the Noahic telephone game, baby.
It's the Noahic telephone game. And then 2, the next question, and I think this is the one that scares everyone, is, all right, what are we supposed to do? Because if we are to bring all of the earth, all of creation under the lordship of Jesus Christ, and if those spirits are created things, does that mean I need to go out to the river and start reading Psalms to the river?
I just got chills, just so you know.
That
praise God for scripture. That's all I can say. Like, read it, find out what it says, go with it, because it's right. It's not probably right, it's right. So, all right, we'll roll to the next commercial break and see y'all after this.
We'll be right back on Poets at War.
Hello, I'm Sarah Levesque, Editor-in-Chief of Logo Sophia magazine. I would like to invite you to explore our Pilgrim's Journal of Life, Love, and Literature, both in visual format and in podcast format. Our goal is to help bridge the gaps between different Christian denominations and traditions. Please visit our website at logosophiamag.com to read or listen to stories, articles, poetry, and more, all for free. We look forward to journeying with you.
What up, everybody? It's your general the next day. There was about 10 more minutes to that segment you just saw. Alex said that we should put it up as bonus content because it was technically after when I transitioned to the next segment. But it was very interesting. And so if you're interested in hearing more on this topic, including some secondhand and firsthand related accounts of interesting spiritual stuff going on, you can go to joshuadavidling.com/LL. $10 a month, you get everything I've ever made. Access to all of it, the entire Ling Lyricanium, all of my epic poetry, but also the bonus content. There will be a folder there called PAW bonus content. That is Poets at War bonus content. And you can hear the rest of that awesome segment that we had there. Anyway, back to the show.
Get down! We're returning to the trenches on Poets at War.
Yeah, let's get to it. So, this one I wanted to do, anyone can show and tell what they want. I wanted to show the website. I will do some B-roll for that, but I'll just go ahead and start talking about it. The main thing that I wanted to show off was the mobile version. The main website on desktop looks good too. You can check that out. Have you guys seen it yet? All the work that I've been doing on it?
I have not.
This is another thing we can get into for a more full topic at some point, but I talked to Brendan a little bit about this on the phone this week, but I am so sick and tired of Buddhist presuppositions working their way into web design. The whole concept of just minimalism, aesthetics, minimalism to a crazy degree, where we're just ethereal spirits getting the information and nothing else. I want every website that I create that I actually have creative control over to be to feel like a place. I want it to feel solid, even if it's, you know, digital information. I want it to give an aesthetic feel of being solid. And that's why it's got a JPEG image of books in the background, a little bit blurred. It's got, you know, this textured feel on the text backgrounds. The whole thing's got a feel to it, and I'm trying to, you know, lean into some of the medieval aesthetics. You'll notice down the side, if you're looking on desktop, the I did redid the social icons as Renaissance type paintings and stuff, to be just fun and different and whatever else, but you can still kind of tell what they are. And then, you know, just I use the medieval sharp font as my main font for most things. I find it to be very pleasing to the eye, very simple still to read, and OCR picks it up if I ever need it, you know, for visual to text kind of reasons. But yeah, I mean, this has been a labor of love. I'm still continuing, you know, I'm always trying to upgrade and do various things, but I really just want everywhere that I go to look and feel warm and homey, and like it's a place, not just, you know, information on a screen. I think if people took that into account, we'd at least have a more interesting internet, because I think they did early on. And regardless of all the bad gifts and YTMNDs and other things that existed back in the day, I just really appreciate it when people design-wise take that into account. What do you guys think if you've taken a look at it? Are you looking now? Yeah. You tear it apart. Go ahead.
I'm trying. Well, no, I'm trying to. That's the problem. It's not that. Oh, I'm not trying to tear it apart. I'm just trying to get to it. It's a little bit more difficult than.
Oh, it's all good. You can take your time too.
I agree with the whole. Oh, on one hand, I understand the minimalism. The idea is, oh, everybody's going so fast. You want to get them to where they want to go as fast as possible. You want to make it as easy for them as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I was navigating your website for like the forum and stuff, it takes a little bit. Might want to. The only thing maybe adjust the colors a little bit so it's not quite as maybe not black, but a dark gray.
Well, it's been a while since you've been to it. It's different now, but yeah.
Yeah. But okay. Yeah. Well, let me just pull it up then.
Why not? Go for it. I don't like the left align. I haven't been able to fix that yet, but on the desktop version, but it's still nice. And the mobile version is what I'm really proud of.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sure, it needs tweaks here and there, but I actually like this a lot better than the way you had it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see if I can get onto the mobile version now. But no, I agree with your, like, to a certain degree, the minimalistic idea is just really boring. I like the font. It's kind of cheesy.
Oh, it's totally cheesy nerdy.
It's kind of cheesy. Well, I'm thinking like 90s, like.
Yes,
like
90s
blog project that you made in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But that's totally okay. It's like, all right, you know, this is fun. It feels fun, and that's what you want, I think. I like that you have Poets at War. You've got Build-A-Bard. It works really well. The one thing I would say is, it's like for your Build-A-Bard, it says, you know, you've got a single like screenshot. If you have videos, I would like to I know you have videos on the Build-A-Bard channel. I would like to see a link on there somewhere.
Well, those are it's a category right now. But I'm gonna be changing that soon. Yeah, it's just a category with the blog posts and stuff. So yeah, but yep. I'm working on Build-A-Bard. I don't have clear vision on it yet. I was going to be doing a lot more of the AI type videos and things, but I think the market's already too saturated for me to really get in on that, and I don't want to waste time. So I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to slot in.
Well, market might be saturated, but people...
Yeah, I have a unique take, but it's, yeah.
Well, you're not making it to... You're not... Build-A-Bard isn't your main thing. Poets at War is.
Yes.
Build-A-Bard is an offshoot of Poets at War. So people who go to Poets at War, who want to see you make, how you do the stuff, how you make your stuff, that's who Build-A-Bard is for, not for just people in general.
Right.
So if you have time, I would definitely, obviously don't make Build-A-Bard your main thing, but I would definitely encourage you to keep making that, keep going. If you have minutes to kill and you're like, you know what? I want to make a Build-A-Bard video showing progress. Boom, done.
Yeah.
Then you can throw it up in the text channel. Throw up is probably a really bad term to use. But,
Alex, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the website looks really good. I appreciate what you're saying about the minimalism. So I personally really like minimalism. I think that I find appealing.
There's a good kind of minimalism.
That's exactly what I was going to say, especially as done by Johnny Ive in the Apple aesthetic. I just absolutely love the look of Apple products and that type of minimalism. But as far as making it feel like a place, that's absolutely something that fails at, because every Apple product looks like every other Apple product.
Right.
And that's how it's supposed to be. They all look the same. They're no place. Or nowhere, whatever that book was called. But as far as making it feel like a place, the one thing that I would critique, and I'm not even sure that this can be fixed, is like the category. It's still white with text. It's still that web design. Can you make it look like a drawer? Is that a thing that you can do? Like make it
like the where it says post categories and you drop down, you can choose.
Can you make it look like a drawer with dividers and stuff? Because that's
now you make
way more towards skeuomorphism, and that feels more like a place. That's the only thing that I can see about it that would fit more in with the aesthetic that you seem like you're going for.
I'm really fascinated by that concept. I may have to tool around.
Skeuomorphism is great to look into.
Yeah.
Okay. Or if you like books, that ye old menu, have each menu item be a book, but the menu item Poets at War, that's like a book binding, right? It's the writing on the side of the book here.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
Just ideas.
Yeah. No, you guys got some cool ideas. Yeah, that would definitely feed into the stuff I'd done with the social links and everything, the way I did them and all that kind of stuff. So thanks. You guys have anything to show and tell?
Well, I mean, I always have a bunch of projects like cooking around in my head, but the only thing that I've been working on, since I now have a kid and I want to model good habits and behaviors for him, I am busy making a game, and that game involves miniatures. And so I sent some pictures. I don't know if you want to throw them up, Joshua, in the video.
We're throwing up again.
The next,
Do you have a bad dinner?
No,
or is it just because you have a baby?
It's because I have a baby. The baby, let's be honest. So much spit up. So many diapers. How does such a small creature hold so much poop? But it's the next miniature I'm going to paint. And because it's for a game, every unit, every miniature is going to have a little story, a little description thing. So I'm hoping to make a video of me painting it, maybe a sort of show-off shot, and then add some lore and some maybe I'll draw. I don't know. It's an idea. I'm not sure if this is going to follow through at all, but I'm hoping to make something and to show my son, hey, you can make things with your hands and it's really fun. You don't have to be an iPad kid who stares at the screen all day.
Yep. All right. Alex, you said you didn't have anything?
Not really. I've got a map that I've been working on, but my smaller siblings poured water on it.
We'll get back to a new map maybe sometime soon. So
I made it in like an hour. It's fine.
there you go.
No, my 1 hour of work.
Have you guys seen the coffee map thing that people do? They take a piece of brown paper, map type making stuff, whatever, and they throw coffee on it and then trace it and create a map out of it.
Oh, okay. I start from the tectonic plates up. So.
Oh, fancy. Well, I think that's going to do it. We've gone a good bit over, but it's going to cut down to about the right size, I think. So, everybody, be your family's bard. Do not turn to the right or to the left, and the Lord will be with you wherever you go. We'll see you next time in the trenches on Poets at War.
God of song said